Ever feel like you're trying to jump into a story that's, already moving fast? Got layers.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, today we're basically handing you the keys to unlock the latest chapter of a Star Wars story that's, well, it's really something different. Andor.
Mm-hmm.
Forget the usual Jedi focus for a sec. Andor throws you right into the gritty, morally gray start of the rebellion. It's all about the people crushed under the Empire.
Exactly. That's what makes Andor so good, I think. It's the focus on real people, the oppressive systems, and the tough choices they have to make, often in the shadows.
Right.
And we've got some great material here today unpacking the second chapter of this final season, episodes 4 to 6. It's called The Ghorman Gambit, just premiered.
Yeah, the Ghorman Gambit. And this season's structure is pretty wild, isn't it? 4 3-episode arcs, each a year closer to Rogue One.
Super ambitious.
So this chapter, it picks up from the first 3 episodes and throws us right into the tension on Ghorman. Our mission today, really, is to pull out the key info. What actually happened on Ghorman? Who are the main players now? And what does it all mean for the rebellion that's just starting to bubble up?
And just so we're all on the same page, maybe we should quickly run through the big takeaways from Chapter 1, Episodes 1 to 3, just to, set the scene before we dive deep into Ghorman.
Good idea. Okay, so Chapter 1. Last time we saw Cassian, he was still figuring out this whole resistance thing. His mission, stealing that TIE Avenger prototype.
Yeah, big asset.
Huge. It led him to Naya, that Imperial who, well, seemed to have a conscience, kind of showed the Empire wasn't just one big evil block.
Right, a crack in the facade.
But then Cassian gets tangled up with the Maya Pay Brigade on Yavin 4. Yeah. And you saw how disorganized the early rebels were. Lots of infighting, no clear plan.
Yeah, some people felt that dragged a bit, maybe, but it really showed the messiness of it all, how hard it is to get different groups on the same page.
Definitely. Meanwhile, back on Chandrila, Mon Mothma, she was dealing with her daughter Lyda's very traditional wedding.
Really highlighting the personal cost of her double life.
Totally. Her relationship with Lyda was strained, and then her banker friend, Tay Kolma, tries to blackmail her.
Which goes sideways fast. Luthen steps in, Cinta deals with Tay permanently.
Yeah. And Mon's emotional state after that, summed up in that dance scene, it just hits you how much this is costing her personally.
Heavy stuff. And we got that little moment with Perrin Firth's speech, too. Maybe more to him than meets the eye.
Could be. Then you have the Ferrix survivors, Bix, Brasso, Willman. They try to find refuge on Mina Rao, but that just falls apart.
Brutally. The Imperial inspection, the betrayal by Kellen.
And Bix's torture. Horrific, leading to her killing Lieutenant Kroll in desperation.
Right, and then Cassian shows up just as Brasso gets killed by a stormtrooper. So sudden, so random, shows how vulnerable everyone is.
Yeah. Cassian gets away with Bix and Willman, but leaving BD-Emo behind, that hurt. Even droids have these connections,
Yeah, it really did. And on the Imperial side, we met Director Krennic, plus ISB agents Dedra Meero and Major Partagaz.
Oh yeah, that secret meeting at the Malthine Divide, the visuals alone were unsettling. Very Third Reich.
Definitely intentional. Krennic lays out this energy initiative on Ghorman, mining deep substrate foliated calcite.
Which sounds a lot like Death Star fuel, they say.
Literally, almost certainly. And the plan. Displace the Ghormans, demonize them, comparing them to spiders, all to get this resource.
And Dedra suggests using rebel violence, even instigated rebel violence, as the excuse to clamp down. Cold.
Utterly ruthless. And then that weird domestic scene with Dedra, Cyril, and his mother, hinting at some very strange power dynamics there.
Yeah, Dedra seemed very much in control. So Chapter 1, it paints this really stark picture, doesn't it? The cost of rebellion, lives, morals, innocence, trauma everywhere, the Empire's cold efficiency versus the rebels' chaotic start, and trust, or the lack of it, being huge.
Exactly. And now, The Ghorman Gambit, written by Bo Gulliman, directed by Ariel Kleiman. It jumps us forward another year to 3 BBY. Focus is tight on Ghorman.
And things escalate.
Big time. We get deep into espionage, the psychological weight everyone's carrying, the politics, that constant question of trust, trauma resurfacing, and tactics getting much, much harsher on all sides.
Okay, so Episode 4, Ever Been to Ghorman, kicks off with that gear jump.
Yeah.
What's the immediate feeling you get from that?
Well, it tells you straight up, this fight is long, it's a grind, there aren't quick wins, the scars stick around.
Right.
And we see that immediately with Cassian and Bix. They're living together in a safe house on Coruscant. But it's complicated.
How so?
Bix is clearly still reeling from the torture by Dr. Gorst. Nightmares, medication. She's dealing with serious PTSD.
Okay.
And Cassian's trying to be protective, trying to care for her, but he's also got these dangerous missions for Luthen. It's this constant balancing act.
Yeah, that really shows trauma isn't just something you get over quickly. It lingers, shapes everything.
Precisely. It's a constant presence.
And this episode brings back Cyril Karn, but he's not on Ferrix anymore. He's on Ghorman.
Yes. On the surface, he's just pushing papers like a Bureau of Standards worker. Seems dull.
But knowing Cyril.
Exactly. He's secretly feeding information to Dedra Meero. He's an ISB informant. His presence there. That's the start of the Empire's deliberate manipulation of Ghorman.
Ah, okay, so he's their inside man, driven by his ambition, maybe wanting to make up for Ferrix.
Probably. And the local resistance, the Ghorman Front, they actually notice him. They clock his arrival.
Interesting. What about Wilman Pack, the kid who escaped with Cassian and Biggs? Where's he?
Wilman's ended up on Dakar, which, viewers will recognize later as a key resistance base.
Right, from the sequel trilogy.
Yeah. But right now, he's kind of under Saw Gerrera's thumb. And Saw isn't exactly nurturing him. He needs Wilman's tech skills, something about a Rhydonium sapping device.
So Saw's just using him.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It just highlights again how fractured the early rebellion is. Trust is a rare commodity, even among allies.
And Luthen, still pulling strings from his Coruscant gallery.
Oh, absolutely. He meets with Lonnie Young, his ISB mole. And Young confirms the Empire is very interested in Ghorman. So Ghorman becomes the focus. Luthen tasks Cassian with going there, setting up the main conflict of this arc. Cleomarchy's still there too, his right hand.
Okay, so Episode 5, I have friends everywhere. This sounds like pure spy stuff. Cassian arrives on Ghorman.
Exactly. He gets there, probably using a cover identity. The sources hint maybe something to do with textiles. Ghorman had a history there.
Makes sense.
He links up with the Ghorman Front. And his assessment is quick. They're angry, yeah. There's this simmering resentment, maybe linked to the old Parkin massacre from Legends, which seems to be canon now.
Oh, interesting callback.
But passionate as they are, they're green, inexperienced, not ready for what's likely coming.
And Cyril's working his way in with them.
He is, playing the double agent brilliantly. He fakes being disillusioned with the Empire, uses falsified ISB records to back it up, and he starts feeding them intel. Stuff about Imperial weapon shipments, of course it's all compromised info, carefully chosen by Dedra. But the rebels, they see him as this amazing inside source. They're desperate, hopeful.
And totally unaware they're being played.
Exactly. It's that cold Imperial calculation versus the rebels' kind of naive hope.
Meanwhile, what's happening with Saw Gerrera back on Dakar? Sounds like he's getting more extreme. Why is that important?
Yeah, his radicalism is definitely ramping up. We see him deliberately breathing in toxic Rhydonium fumes.
Aye.
The show suggests it's maybe a warped way of coping with his sister Steela's death back in the Clone Wars. That trauma is twisting him.
Okay.
It's fueling his paranoia, his ruthlessness. He actually executes one of his own partisans because he suspects him of being a spy. It's chilling. Shows how far he'll go.
Wow.
And his influence on Wilman is growing. You worry he's pulling the kid down that same dark path. It shows how conflict can just erode everything, morals, boundaries.
Yeah. So it sounds like there's this major split in how the rebels are thinking. Cassian sees Ghorman isn't ready, but Luthen has this other, maybe colder strategy.
That's the core tension, yeah. Cassian's the pragmatist. He sees inciting the Ghorman Front now will be a disaster. Luthen, he's thinking bigger picture, maybe too big. He's an accelerationist. Meaning he sees Ghorman as a potential trigger. Even if the local rebellion fails, gets crushed, the Empire's brutal response could be the spark that ignites wider resistance across the galaxy. A symbol.
Wow. So he's willing to sacrifice them.
It seems like it. And this causes a huge rift with Cassian. It gets worse when Lucen apparently visits Bix back on Coruscant. Cassian sees that as crossing a line, violating trust, putting Bix at risk.
Yeah, I can see why. It really throws up that ethical question, doesn't it? Protect the people you care about now or risk them for a bigger, uncertain goal later.
Exactly. It's the classic revolutionary dilemma, and it puts Luthen, Cassian, and Saw on these really different philosophical paths. Caution versus strategic gambles versus trauma-fueled extremism.
Which leads us to Episode 6, What a Festive Evening. Sounds like things come to a head here. Tragically.
Very tragically. So Cassian leaves Ghorman, probably can't stomach Luthen's plan. Then Velsartha and Cinta Kaz arrive.
Ah, Vel and Cinta.
They have this really touching reunion, maybe even a reconciliation. The source material hints they might even talk about Luthen, maybe starting to see how he uses people.
Okay.
But any hope they have is just gone in an instant. The Ghorman front acts on Cyril's bad intel. They try to raid that Imperial weapons shipment.
And it goes wrong.
Horribly wrong. In the chaos, Cinta is killed. And the worst part, it's friendly fire. One of the inexperienced Ghorman rebels she was trying to help accidentally shoots her.
Oh no, that's devastating, especially after their reunion.
It's brutal, a huge blow for Val, obviously, and while cynically it serves the ISB's purpose, gives them the pretext they wanted, it's just a massive personal tragedy. That kiss between them earlier, that LGBTQ plus representation, makes her death hit even harder. Though, yeah, some might say it felt a bit predictable, the bury your gays trope, maybe.
Yeah, but it's a fair point to raise. While that's happening on Ghorman, what's going on back on Coruscant? Sounds less violent, but maybe just as tense.
Totally different vibes, same underlying tension. Mon Mothma is at this fancy party thrown by Davos Golden. Politics, intrigue.
Who's there?
We actually see Senator Bail Organa, Benjamin Bratt playing him.
Oh, cool.
And Director Krennic is there too. Imagine Mon having to navigate that room. Her interactions with Krennic must be incredibly tense.
I bet.
And at the same time, Luthen and Kleya are running their own ops at the party, trying to get their listening device back from Skolden's art collection. Maybe Lonnie Young helps from the inside.
Wow. So you've got high society intrigue on Coruscant and a brutal, tragic failure on Ghorman happening side by side.
Exactly. It really underscores the different fronts this war is being fought on.
But Bix's story back on Coruscant sounds like it takes a really dark turn.
Oh, absolutely. This is huge for her character. She finds Dr. Gorst, her torturer, possibly with Luthen's help, which raises its own questions about his motives, right? Is it help or manipulation?
Good question.
And Bix confronts him. It's described as this dark, cathartic sequence where she basically turns his methods back on him. She tortures him, kills him, and destroys his facility.
Whoa. That's intense.
It's a massive shift for her. From victim to perpetrator of violence, a reclamation of agency maybe, but a really violent one born from trauma.
And the tragic irony is, while she gets this personal revenge, the bigger cause on Ghorman is collapsing because of Imperial scheming and rebel mistakes.
Exactly. It raises that awful question about cycles of violence. Does her revenge actually help her heal or just deepen the wound in a different way?
So the Ghorman Gambit arc,
Mm-hmm.
it's packing a lot in thematically. What are the big ideas we should be thinking about?
Well, subterfuge and distrust are huge, right? Cyril playing both sides, Dedra keeping secrets even from Cyril, Saw's paranoia with Wilman, Luthen keeping everyone compartmentalized.
Yeah, everyone's hiding something.
And it makes you realize how vital trust actually is for rebellion to even have a chance.
Yeah.
But it's so hard to come by.
And the psychological toll just seems immense.
Yeah.
Why focus so much on that?
Because it's real. Bix's PTSD leading to violence, Saw using rhydonium to cope with trauma, Cassian carrying the weight of protecting Bix. It shows the human cost isn't just death, it's the lasting damage inside people.
Yeah. It's not just about battles and politics.
Not at all. It's about what the conflict does to people.
We're also seeing this gap widen, aren't we? Between the rebels who are kind of stumbling around and the Empire who seems so methodical.
Definitely. The Ghorman front's eagerness leading to tragedy versus the ISB under Dedra and Krennic just executing their plans step by step. It shows how hard it is for a new rebellion to fight an established power.
And the morality. It's getting really murky, especially with Luthen.
Yeah, that clash between Cassian wanting to protect people now and Luthen willing to sacrifice the Ghorman front for a potential future uprising. It forces you to think about the ethics of it all.
Like, what lines are okay to cross for the greater good?
Exactly. Are there lines? Andor doesn't give easy answers.
Even relationships are getting pulled into the grinder.
Oh, totally. Cassian Bix, their connection strained by trauma and secrets. Vel and Cinta tragically cut short. Even Cyril and Dedra, that dynamic is just unsettling.
Right.
It shows how the big political conflict infects everything, even the most personal parts of life. And you get this contrast. The Empire's evil feels bureaucratic, planned in meetings like the Ghorman one, while the rebels' actions, even the mistakes and the dark turns like Bix's revenge or Saw's extremism, feel deeply personal, messy, human.
It's fascinating seeing how the characters change through this, too. What did Chapter 2 really do for their journeys?
Well, Cassian, you see him getting more disillusioned with Luthen's way of doing things because of Bix, because of Ghorman. It feels like another step towards the Cassian we meet in Rogue One, more hardened, maybe more cynical.
Makes sense.
Bix's change is maybe the most stark. From victim to, well, someone capable of that level of violence. Does she find closure? Or just swap one kind of trauma for another? It really changes her relationship with Cassian, too, you have to imagine. Wilman. He's going deeper down the rabbit hole with Saw. Is Saw mentoring him or corrupting him? It's worrying.
And Cyril.
Cyril's playing a high-stakes game on Ghorman. You wonder if he even fully gets what the ISB is planning, or if his ambition blinds him. Could he have a crisis of conscience later? Maybe. And his relationship with Dedra remains deeply weird and potentially dangerous for him.
What about Velmia? Losing Cinta like that?
Huge turning point for her. Does it break her? Make her more radical? Does she turn against Luthen? So many possibilities now.
And Saw just seems to be solidifying into the figure we know from later stories.
Yeah, the extremism, the paranoia, the physical toll with the Rhydonium. It's all connecting back to his past trauma, pushing him towards that Rogue One persona. Luthen, too, he comes across as even more committed to the cause above all else, even if it makes him seem cold, manipulative. The tension with Cassian highlights that. Is he becoming like the enemy to fight the enemy?
That's a recurring thing, isn't it? Characters starting to mirror the thing they're fighting against, or just reflecting the harshness of it all.
Absolutely. The conflict itself is corrosive.
So looking ahead, what does the Ghorman Gambit set up for the rest of the season, and maybe even Star Wars overall?
The most direct thing is the Ghorman massacre. It feels inevitable now, right? Cinta's death, the failed raid, that's the Empire's excuse for the crackdown we know is coming in the next arc, set in 2 BBY.
And that massacre is probably what pushes Mon Mothma over the edge publicly.
Almost certainly. Her big speech denouncing the Emperor, going into hiding as a full rebel leader, Ghorman seems like the catalyst.
What about character fates? Anyone feel particularly doomed now?
Well, thinking about Rogue One, where Cassian is pretty isolated, it doesn't look great for people close to him like Bix or Wilman, does it? Their survival seems less likely now.
Yeah, sadly.
Luthen's playing with fire too. His strategies are so risky it feels like they could easily blow up in his face.
Yeah.
Vel's future is totally up in the air. And Cyril, how long can he be useful to the ISB before he becomes disposable or makes a mistake?
Still no K2SO though. People were expecting him.
Not yet. Which is interesting. We're getting closer to the Rogue One timeline. Maybe his introduction is saved for later. How Cassian acquires him is still a big question. Could it even tie back to Beta Yomo somehow? Maybe his processor? Just speculation, of course.
Fun theory.
But the main thing is how all these threads, Cassian Mon, Luthen Bix, Wilman, Cyril, Ghorman, are clearly weaving together everything that happened in this arc of the deaths, the betrayals, the radicalization, feels like it's pushing the story towards Rogue One. These aren't side plots, they're crucial steps.
Okay, so summing up the Ghorman Gambit, it definitely feels like things got way more intense, deeper dives into trauma, morality gets even grayer, and huge turning points for basically everyone involved.
Absolutely. Andor just keeps proving it's its own thing within Star Wars. So grounded, so mature, so politically aware. It's really exploring the human cost of standing up to tyranny, the impossible choices, the shades of gray in that fight.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? Even in this galaxy far, far away, fighting for freedom isn't clean. It's messy, it's morally complicated, it demands these huge personal sacrifices, and things go wrong in ways you can't predict.
Yeah.
Leaves you chewing on that idea,
Yeah.
What is the real price of revolution? And wrestling with that tough question, do the ends ever justify, means this brutal.